Hello everyone, how are you guys doing? I hope everything is more than fine wherever you are. This is Spanish Grandmaster Pepe Cuenca and I welcome you to this Banter series finals. Last 16 where the best chess players in the world are competing. And today is a special day because normally we don't add extra commentary because the players stream do commentary in their own stream. But today Peter and Anish Giri are streaming from their own channel. So that's why some people will get lost, and also we can add like messengers because in this description you will find the links for their streams. But anyway, we're gonna have some fun here. So as you know, the last 16 are played to the best of 10 games, what means they need 5.5 points to win the match. And in case of a tie, they will play 2 more games. And in case of a tie, they will play an amazing Armageddon. So, as you guys know, Peter Svidler, 8 times Russian champion. One of the best chess players in the world. It's a true gentleman on and off the board. And Anish Giri, you all know him as well. He is one of the candidates nowadays. So, he will be competing in the candidates tournament in November to fight for a place to face the World Champion Magnus Carlsen the next year. So he's been very active lately in the social media, and so he created a YouTube channel which is very successful, and so he's streaming from there today. And I remember you guys, you can find their own commentary in the link, but as I was telling you, too many people come via our YouTube channel, so that's why you may get lost today. So we act like messengers. So, I say hello to everybody over there in the chat. I see some people in the Chess24 chat, in the YouTube chat as well. So, let's have some fun, right? 3 + 2 increment. So, that means there's a lot of adrenaline, a lot of mistakes, and definitely it's going to be a lot of fun. So, Anish Giri will start with the white pieces, and we're going to activate this beautiful bar. Right, you can see here on the left part on the screen, and for those who are completely new, this indicates the evaluation of the current position, right? So this is gonna start like in 1 or 2 minutes, and let's see what happens, right? At 5:30 p.m. Magnus Carlsen, the world champion, will be facing one of my favorite players, the Indian Radjabov, who won his qualifier, of course, and also every player here won the qualifier or was invited. And Peter beat me actually in the first round, but at least I fought, and I managed to get 2.5 points, so I'm quite happy about that. And okay, the games are started, and let's see what happens in the opening. We get Grunfeld. As you guys know, Peter is one of the experts in the Grunfeld, and Anish Giri goes for h4. Extremely aggressive, h5, bishop g7, and d4 controlling the center. Now extremely aggressive Anish Giri. Now of course e4 doesn't win because of knight takes e3, b takes e3, and bishop takes e4, and this is just a pawn up for Peter Svidler. So let's see how white develops. Normally when this bishop is developed to f5, now the b7 square is a little bit weak, so that's why queen b3 was interesting. But rook h4, what is Anish doing? He's playing extremely aggressive, and now he's threatening, of course, to play e4 controlling the center. So it's a very tough moment now for Peter Svidler, who has to manage this e4 move. So let's see how he plays. For example, bishop f6 could be an option, right? Attacking this rook, kicking this rook back, probably. And also, let's see what happens. e6, e4 probably is just winning. But I don't know, because this could get extremely messy after a move like e6, e4, knight takes d4. But okay, bishop f6, g4. Wow, sacrificing a whole exchange, since after bishop h4, g takes f5. Probably this is just an exchange up for Peter Svidler. But of course, there's going to be extremely great compensation for Anish Giri here after the move e4, gaining a lot of central space. And look at this pawn march in the center, man. What else you want in life after e4? e4, knight takes e3, b takes e3, and it's too risky for black to castle in that position. You don't want to go long castle as well after the b file gets opened. So that's why it's hard to play here with the black pieces. Let's see how Peter Svidler plays in this position after e4, but it looks to me that knight takes c3, it's the only move available here in this position. B takes c3, and now white has reinforced the center and has opened the b file. So a move like rook b1, queen a4 could be coming. Also bishop f5, moves like e5 are in the air, so looks very, very hard to play here with the black pieces. Also e5 is a interesting possibility, and after bishop g7, h6, just pushing this pawn to the stomach. This bishop is forced to get back to f8, so extremely fun position. Let's see what happens. Only 1 minute 20 seconds for Peter Svidler, and now g takes f5, e5, and Peter gives the piece back. So bishop takes e5, now d takes e5, but this looks to me like a good position for Anish Giri. Queen takes e1, king takes e1, and now this Anish Giri has 2 pieces for the rook and also the bishop pair, which is extremely, extremely important in chess, as you guys know. So now probably king c2. This is a good square for the king. There are no checks. No checks on d4, no checks on b4. Now rook g8, now trying to get this rook active on the g file. Maybe looking for the g4 square after bishop f4, rook g4. And now this bishop on f4 would be attacked. But now, for example, moves like bishop g5 are in the air. But again, this is extremely messy, because after bishop g5, knight takes e5, e5, sorry, could be a possibility. e6, what is this move? Probably he wants to play bishop c4 after pawn takes e6, and now if this bishop lands on e6, then could be a disaster for black, because now he's threatening to win an exchange again, because the rook on g8 is just hanging. So he plays rook d6, but now bishop f4, for example, and probably I think Peter want to sacrifice another piece with move like knight d8, or yes, knight d8 looks good. And or king d7, after bishop takes, pawn takes, suddenly Peter is a piece down, but he's got like 3 pawns for the piece, and definitely a great center. Wow, now this is very, very interesting. So bishop takes d6, e takes d6, and the structure is fixed. So that's why Anish Giri includes this intermediate move, rook e1, aiming to take on e6, and now probably black has to do something about that. He plays rook g4. Wow, he wants to capture on c4. Bishop takes d6. Probably wants to take on c4 and try to defend that position. It's gonna be hard for Peter. It's gonna be hard with only 50 seconds in the clock. 1 minute 30 seconds for the Dutch, for Anish Giri. And let's see, because now maybe bishop b3 is an option, keeping the tension, aiming to go for bishop e6. No, he took on d6, and now black is basically forced, sorry, to take on c4. Otherwise, the pawn on e6 would be hanging, so that's why he took on c4. And now white is forced to retreat that bishop. But as you guys can see, there is a lot of control on the dark squares and also on e5. So that's why I think Anish Giri is in full control on this position, and it's a matter of technique just to win this position. Bishop g3 back, and now moves like rook d1 are in the air, just kicking this game back to c8 or e8. Peter has a tough position to defend. Maybe ideas like rook g4 and f4, but no, he wants to create some counterplay on the queen side, and he goes for b5. Let's see, aiming to go b4, probably using the fact that then this pawn is pinned on c3. So only 50 seconds for Anish Giri. As you guys know, this becomes extremely messy in time trouble. And well, let's see what happens. Now, normally you want to trade pieces, right? When you are material up. So a move like knight e5 could be more or less natural in this position, just trying to remove some heavy pieces off the board. But no, he was for knight g5, h6, inviting Anish Giri to take on e6. Looks like another extra pawn for him. Knight b4, just king b3. What happens? Probably he wants to go knight d5. Protecting c7, also attacking c3, and now white has to protect that pawn. Let's see how he does it, because I don't see a clear way. No, he attacks the knight on d5, and now probably Peter, it's completely lost in this position. Moves like knight c5 are also in the air. The bishop, black could take actually on c3, but I guess this is just completely lost. Moves like knight f8, knight g6, the pawn on f5 is hanging, the pawn on b5 is just hanging. And looks to me that this is going to be 1-0 for Anish Giri. f4, using the Facundo pawn. And now rook takes d5, king takes e6, and rook takes b5, attacking the rook. And now this rook is going to stop this pawn after g takes f2, and probably Peter Svidler is going to resign And Anish Giri gets the first point of this match. So 1-0 for Anish Giri. For those who are arriving and they don't know what am I doing here, you guys can find the links for Peter and Anish Giri commentary in the description. Okay, so don't get scared. You can I'm actually acting as a messenger for you guys, right? So knight f3, g3, and let's see how Anish plays g6. Okay, we're reaching probably Grunfeld type positions. After d4, knight f6, we're actually transposing to the Grunfeld. But of course there are some variations that could be included. For example, the move e5, gaining full control in the center. We have seen Magnus Carlsen versus Vachier-Lagrave using this kind of ideas like a lot of years ago already. So knight c6, probably black wants to develop via e7 and then go for short castle. And e4, and this is like some sort of King's Indian reversed, right? Rook takes d1 and now bishop g4, threatening knight d4. So here you have different options to control the d4 square. One of them is bishop e3. Probably the most natural is just c3, controlling the d4 square. And now you are ready to go for knight a3, knight c2, knight e3. The d5 square is actually kind of weak now, so that's why c3, knight f6 was played by Anish Giri. And let's see how white develops the queen side, right? Because a lot of pieces are stuck here on the queen side. So also the e4 pawn could be hanging, some variations, but I think there's no trouble with that because after knight e4 you always have this move rook e1. In this game it's still in the center, so h3 attacking this bishop on g4, and this bishop probably has to go back to e6 or d7. You don't want to give the bishop pair for free in your life, right? So this is never a great choice, just to give up the bishop pair for nothing. So no, not at all. So that's why this bishop has to go back to e6 or d7, and looks very healthy for Anish Giri. But he took on f3, and I would say this is really good for white. So h5, I don't know what's idea. Probably wants to go some sort of h4 in these positions, but I think you just can pass. For example, knight a3, h4, just g4. But no, he went for knight d2. Now probably long castle is a good version, using the fact that this knight on d2 is pinned. Probably Peter Svidler wants to go knight c4 or knight f1 to reach this beautiful square on e3, but now Anish Giri doesn't allow him. He goes for long castle in this position. It's gonna be hard now for Peter to move the pieces. Probably rook e1, just freeze this beautiful knight on d2. Now you can move the knight to c4 and bishop h6. This is actually a very clever move because now black managed to get rid of the bishop pair. So I would say this is more or less an equal position already. Different plans in this position here for white. You can try to control the d5 square. You can try to start a pawn march on the queen side, right? With b4, a4, b5 and stuff like that. And I don't know what's black supposed to do here in this position. Well, he went for rook e8. Now, again, freeing this knight on c6. So he doesn't need to know to protect the e5 pawn anymore. And so king g2 from Peter Svidler, 2 minutes each. This is a lot of fun, right? This is the best invention in the chess wall, the Banter Blitz Cup, right? Or the Banter series. Who can imagine, right? So the best chess players in the world just playing and commentating on their own games. This was just an impossible thing, to think about like 15 years ago or something like that, right? So bishop d1, look at this beautiful diagonal for the bishop. He wants to style a beautiful bishop on b3 and then put pressure on the f7 pawn. That could be weak, but no, knight a5. Now this bishop is gonna land on b3. Trust me guys, this bishop is gonna come here to put pressure on f7. And yes, you got this d3 square to penetrate with the rook, but I think it's not that interesting because you can always play bishop e2. Also, rook d2 is a possibility here in this position. But I guess Peter's idea is just to go bishop b3 anyway. So with this move, you protect the a2 pawn, and at the same time, as I was telling you guys, you attack the f7 pawn. We call this pawn Facundo in Spanish. It's a very common name in Spain and Latin America. Bishop b3. By the way, guys, sorry for the setup, but I'm in a hotel room right now because tomorrow I will start competing in the Spanish National Championship in teams. So that's why I'm not in the studio or whatever. So sorry about that. c4. Now he wants to play c5. Now Peter is putting a lot of pressure. c5 followed by c6. trying to open some lines. Also, look at this beautiful square for the knight. C4 is so tasty. C5 followed by knight C4, and then this rook is doing nothing on D2. This rook will have to go back to D4 or D8 or something like that. But what I mean is this rook is not gonna be active anymore on the 7th rank, annoying us so much, right? So that's why C5 and knight C4 looks like a very interesting plan to me. So knight D7, and I really like C5. C5 from Peter, knight B8. And now too many interesting options here for Peter. Knight C4 or knight D6, also a move here. Look at this move, guys. Knight D6. Whenever this rook goes, let's say to D4, knight D6, just wins a pawn, and Peter goes for it. Boom! Knight D6 and knight B7. But also, Anish Giri wants to create some counterplay, taking this pawn on B4. Knight S7 was played. Now, destroying the structure on the queen side. Also, the E5 pawn is hanging. This position is extremely good for Peter Svidler, who can tie the score now for 1-1. And now you got different options. Again, you can take the pawn on B4. You can take the pawn on E4, I would say. So, but the problem after taking on E4, after all the exchanges, rook E1, and then there was a lot of pressure on E5. Now, let's see. But it looks like rook D1 is almost winning, because after king E8, there is checkmate on D8. And after king C6, wow, this is amazing. You got rook D6 there? Or am I getting crazy? Rook D1 and rook D6. Chess is so beautiful, guys. Rook D1, king C6, and rook D6. Pawn takes, check. And then this king has to go to B6, and D takes E7, almost making a queen. This is so fantastic. Peter is going for that. Peter is going for that knot. 1 minute, 7 seconds. This is just amazing move. Rook D6. And probably Anish has to resign over there in this position, because if you move the... Oh, rook to A4 was also an interesting move. And now this is just an exchange up for Peter Svidler, who's still completely winning the position. Rook D8, knight BD7. Only move, and I think bishop D5 just makes Anish resign. Boom! And this is 1-1. This was an amazing game from Peter Svidler. And what else can we ask for in life? To see the best chess players in Chess 24. And this tournament is extremely important, because it's giving like a couple of places for the Magnus Tour. So everybody wants to participate here, of course, because the prize is very, very tasty, right? So knight F3 for Anish Giri. Now let's see if Peter changes and plays another opening different from the Grunfeld. As you guys know, Peter is one of the most experts, if not the best, of the Grunfeld in the world. So knight F6, of course, he goes for the Norwegian rat. He goes for the Norwegian rat, as Magnus Carlsen calls it. So knight F6, knight H5. Of course, you can never go bishop G7 straight away, because G4 is just winning a piece. So let's see what Anish is prepared against. Has prepared against the Norwegian rat. Bishop C4, putting pressure on F7. This is knight C6, and now let's see what Anish plays here. C3 looks natural to me, so just intend to go queen B3 in different positions. Also after D takes C5, you could play maybe D5 at some point. And also queen E2, right? Looks natural to me, because of course black wants to trade on E5 and then trade queens, and we're not gonna allow that, of course, because that would be a mistake, right? So queen E2 after D takes E5, you can always take back with the pawn, and the queen is not anymore on D1, right? So queen E2 is in the chat. What am I saying, guys? Don't listen to me. Queen E2 is in the board, and now there are some options like E6 that you should pay attention to, right? So let's see how Peter plays now. D5 looks to me like a natural move, just to close the position, so we don't want any troubles on F7. And D5, bishop B3, and probably bishop G4 could be an option. The problem all the time is this knight on H5, which is in the ring doing basically nothing, right? This knight is bullied in the school, so there is a route for this knight by G7, but everything looks so artificial, right? So let's see how Peter plays in this position. So 2 minutes 10 seconds for Peter, and 2 minutes 20 seconds for Anish Giri. Bishop G7. This is an extremely dangerous approach for black, because after H3, G4 is always threatening to win a piece in the spot, right? So because the f4 square is covered. So I don't know what Peter has planned against h3. So d takes e5, d takes e5, and now let's see, knight takes knight d4. Wow. So knight d4, I don't know what's going on here after bishop f7, king f7, queen c4, I guess only moves knight e6, but then you got knight g5 just winning in the spot. I think this variation is just winning for Anish Giri, I'm not so sure. Of course, white has another options, including queen e4, knight takes d4, but bishop f7, it's a great variation for Anish Giri. Let's see if he spots that or not. Because we have the clue of the bar, right? The jab is jumping, right? The bar is having a heart attack here in chess 24. So we see that the bar is indicating that we got +2 and Anish Giri goes for this. And then boom, bishop takes f7. And there's no way to protect the knight on d4. Because if you go bishop e6, just queen d4, regaining the piece. And after knight e6, just knight g5, the king is forced to go back to e8 or g8. And then after knight e6, I would say this is almost winning for Anish Giri. It's not only about the pawn up in the position, but it's also about the king situation. Knight g5 and then knight e6. And now let's see how Peter can fight in this position. He goes for queen d4, intend to go queen takes e5, just capturing that pawn and equalizing the position. But I think, even though if you capture this pawn, let's say knight c3, queen takes e5, queen b3, this looks so great for white, using the fact that the black king cannot castle long or short side. So that's why this king is stuck in the center, so the rooks are not connected. So basically, how are you going to protect this guy on b7? I have no idea, man. I have no idea how you're going to protect this pawn on b7, b6. And, well, I don't know, but bishop e3, knight c3, rook e1, rook a1. What do you want in life? You want a nice boyfriend, nice girlfriend? If you have this center, you have this king naked on e8, why do you want a nice couple? You don't need it. You just need to crush this position, e6. But I don't know about this move, because now, I was about to say that I can castle. Yeah, I can't castle because I moved the king already. So that's why knight f4, and yes, I think Peter's only choice is to create some counterplay on the king side. Of course, maybe queen f3 is just winning in the spot. Again, double attack to the rook on a8 and to the knight on f4. Probably the only move is knight d5, and everything is so pinned over there. You can play rook d1, just winning the knight on d5, and I would say that black has to resign after queen f3. So we'll see what happens, but queen f3 just wins. It's not very tough to spot, but he goes for queen b5. Now, he didn't see that. King f8. Now, Peter trying to escape. Knight c3. It's still completely winning for white. Look at the situation of this king on f8. The rook on h8 is just not playing. Now, white is intending to go probably just bishop e3 and develop the pieces, bringing the rooks to the center. Knight g2 going for the triple repetition for the perpetual with queen g4 and queen f3. But now Anish Giri spots this beautiful queen c6. Again, double attack to the rook on a8 with checkmate. And then he gets the second point, Anish Giri. And let me see if I can change the score. Sorry guys, I'm being the producer, the commentator and everything. So sometimes it's quite tricky. And I'm very bad with computers and technology, stuff like that, you know. So if something bad happens, sorry for that, guys. We'll try to fix that properly and fast. So let's see. Now knight f3 from Peter. And what is going to play? I think Anish went to the bathroom, probably. Just so we'll have a pause, probably like 1 minute or 2 minute pause. So what's up, guys? I see a lot of people in the chat here, in the Chess24 chat, in the YouTube chat. Well, I mean, we have so many platforms where we do the broadcast, right? Like Twitch, Chess24, YouTube, Tinder, right? So we cannot pay attention to all of them, guys. So I'm just reading the Chess24 and YouTube chat, and so just trying to have a great time here with all of you guys, and see what happens. So Anish Giri is back, Now he did his stuff, and now he's got to play with the black pieces in this last 16 of the Banter series. Remember, guys, at 5:30, Magnus Carlsen will be facing Narayanan from India, knight d7, and Peter Svidler goes for this setup, sorry, with knight f3, b3, bishop b2, and e3, sorry. And now e5 could be a move to consider, but after a3, probably you had to give up the bishop pair, because after bishop h5, g4, bishop g6, just e5 pawn is just hanging, right? So e5, a3, and now I think you are forced to take on f3. Of course, black has conceded the bishop pair, but in return he's got a nice center, right, with the pawns on d5 and the pawn on e5, so basically a space advantage, right? So now let's see how Peter develops the piece. He could strike in the center with the move c4. He could develop with g4 at some point as well. So c4 in that position, and now he's trying to open some files, right? Some diagonals, because we got the bishop pair, and as we have said so many times here in Chess 24, like 1,000 times, you gotta open the position you're using the bishop pair, right? So Anish Giri is trying to reinforce the center, right? He doesn't want to concede the center, right? So he doesn't want to give up the center, so that's why c6, c takes e5, c takes e5, and now he wants to develop with bishop d6 and then short castle and make use of this space advantage. But Peter is putting a lot of pressure on this beautiful center with the move knight c3, attacking d5. It's not gonna be easy for black to protect that pawn, because after knight b6, probably bishop b5 is extremely annoying, because the king is still in the center, and I don't know how you're gonna cover your king after bishop b5, so definitely knight b6 is not an option anymore. So the only move that comes to my mind is e4, which is a move that you don't want to play, because after let's say queen f5 or queen d1, this diagonal gets open, and this bishop is enjoying a fantastic life in his balcony, just drinking a mojito. Here we're just drinking still water in some garage, right? This bishop on b2, but suddenly mojitos for everybody, right, on this diagonal. So Anish Giri is consuming a lot of time already. 1 minute 40 seconds, 2 minutes 30 seconds for Peter Svidler. And let's see. D4 is a move that you don't want to play, right? D4 again. Because after e takes d4, pawn takes d4, I don't know, but something bad's gonna happen to that king on e8. I don't know, moves like knight b5, for example, just intend to capture the pawn on d4. And looks extremely bad for black already. That's why Anish Giri is taking so much time in this position. So, let's see. 1 minute for Anish Giri already. And this looks very, very bad, guys. But probably e4 is the only move. I mean, he goes for this. Just protecting d5. Now, 2 options, so 3 options. Queen f5, queen d1, or queen d3. I guess queen e2 is not very natural, right? Because you want to develop this guy at some point. Sorry for so many arrows, guys. I look like Robin Hood. But I like those arrows. You know, for those who are completely new in this world, right? If I say e4, c5, knight f3, knight c6, probably you guys are saying, what is this stupid Spanish guy say? I don't get anything what he says. But okay, this way with the arrows is a little bit easier. So I see the Nightbot is banning everybody in the YouTube chat. Don't do that, Nightbot. So queen b8, it's actually a great solution for Anish Giri, trying to remove the queens off the board, because these bishops are gonna be extremely dangerous with the queen with the queen still on the board. Sorry. So queen b8, I like this move. I like Facundo. f4 here, pawn takes f3, and pass on. Just queen takes f3, stopping. Avoiding the queen trade, and yes, he goes for f4. Nice move from Peter, and the good news for Peter is that after e takes f3, queen takes f3 again, same problem. The pawn on d5 just suffering stomachache, and I don't know how black is gonna protect that. Also, the endgame is quite nice for white here in this position. E takes f3, just queen b8, followed by bishop f3. Again, same trouble. The pawn on d5, open diagonals for the bishop. In general, life is more than great for so pawn takes f3, and now queen b8. No, he took on f3, as we were saying, and I think now queen e5 looks extremely risky, this move with this bishop on b2. I like the move, a long castle here, and followed by king b1, and the king is protected, right? And then some discover moves are gonna come, for example, moves like knight b5 in order to go knight c7. So definitely it's extremely risky for Anish Giri with only 30 seconds in the clock, right? So let's see. But you have too many good options here for white. Short castle, long castle, rook f1 looks good too. Intend to go in some positions from knight d5, using the fact that the pawn on f7 could be extremely weak. I don't know, but he goes for long castle, the most aggressive variation, Peter Svidler. I love that. And now probably his next move is gonna be king b1. As I was telling you guys, now this bishop is more and more dangerous for black because now it is protected. And now this knight could jump to b5, d5, e4. Before that, the knight could only jump to a4 because you had to protect this bishop on b2. Queen e6. Now, Anish Giri says, you know what? I don't want any troubles on this diagonals. That's why probably the most natural move from Anish Giri. And now moves like, I don't know, g4, rook f1, g5. Now, the most natural move, king b1. This rook was pretty dangerous on this file. Bishop d6. Now Anish is ready to go for short castle. But now moves like e4 g5, sorry, has to be. Moves like g5 have to be considered. And he did that. Knight e4, knight takes e4. And now pawn takes e4. And let's see, because after a move like queen g2, bishop g4 was coming. But instead he went for queen g4. Well, after queen takes e4, bishop takes e4, this knight on d7 is actually pinned, so black is not allowed to castle, and only 3 seconds for Anish Giri, who goes for a short castle. Wow. Let's see how Peter plays now. But after queen e6, probably the endgame is quite good for him. I think Anish is just dreaming to exchange this dark square bishop, because after that, his position could be at least a little bit healthy. So queen takes, g4, pawn takes, and bishop e5. He went for this, but still I think there's a lot of attack on the h file. But only 16 seconds for Peter Svidler, the Russian player. And I like this move. Wow, g6. You want to go for checkmate on the h file? It's probably rook h3, bishop b2, and rook h1. This is almost checkmate. I don't see the way to stop that, guys. Rook takes e4. He has to sacrifice the exchange to give this exchange route for the king via f7. But again, this is gonna be just a lot of material for Peter Svidler, but only 6 seconds for both players. So 3 seconds for Peter. Peter, you gotta move. Wow, this went a little bit crazy. This is not my fault, guys. This is the software fault. So rook d8 and rook c7 and probably just rook c1. No, he goes for rook h8, g5. Now this king can escape. And by a g6 and rook c8. And again, I think this is just, well, I don't know. Because now Anish has too many pass pawns on the king side, and the pawn made it to g3. Still, I think this should be a little bit better for Peter, but I'm not so sure anymore. I don't know where this knight is going actually on h5, because f4 is covered. So I think this was not the best idea for Anish Giri. I think this knight probably has to go back to f6 or something. But now this bishop is in good conditions to trade that knight. So king g2. And now rook a8, and whenever this knight goes to f6 or g7, this bishop is gonna swallow it, right? Because you cannot allow this knight to come to h4 or something like that. Just this is the only way to make progress for black in this position. Wow, he goes for the piece sacrifice, but he took on g3. He made the bluff, and Peter didn't take the piece. Probably was a little bit dangerous with all those pawns, but now this should be enough for Peter. Rook a6, bishop g3, and now rook b6, just taking this pawn. I don't know, but Peter, now again, it's not that easy for him. Rook f6, bishop c5, bishop d2, and I'm not so sure about this position anymore. Maybe knight e1 check and knight d3 was protecting that pawn, but he didn't go for this, and now I guess it's time to take this pawn on b4 and run with this beast. And you should run with this beast. Knight f5. This is extremely crazy, of course. Now, black is going to find counterplay on the king side with moves like g4, g3, or e3, e2. So a6, e3, I guess. You just can take this pawn on e3, and then there's never going to be checkmate on the king side. And I guess Peter is going to get this point, and this is going to be 2-2. g4, a7, and g3, well, he goes for the check first. and a7, a8 now comes with a check, and I think Anish Giri is gonna resign pretty soon. Maybe now he's threatening perpetual with knight f1 and knight g3, so that's why. Last good move from Peter Svidler, rook b1, very precise, and now this is just a queen up, and this is gonna be a matter of technique, and it's gonna get the game, and this is 2-2, guys. This is getting extremely exciting. Remember, the first achieving 5.5 points wins the match. In case of 5-5, they will play 2 more games. In case of 6-6, they will go for Armageddon. So knight f3, and knight f3, and then he goes for this bishop f5 line, which is not, of course, the main line, and now c6. Whenever this bishop comes to f5, I always tend to play queen b3, just very fast, just to put pressure on this b7 pawn, right? But I guess just black can play queen b6 and nothing really happens. So I guess there are many possibilities here. Also bishop f4, this is the most natural square for the bishop here, queen b6, and now c5. This is very natural in this kind of positions, because after queen b3, a takes b3, you have this plan with b4 and b5. And even though this pawn makes it to a6, you can play in many occasions b5, because black is never allowed to take with the a pawn, since the rook on a8 is just hanging. So, and another thing, after c5, queen c7, you can play bishop f4. It looks like black can take this bishop on f4, but no, because there is queen b7, and now the rook on a8 falls. So I think they're gonna go for this variation with bishop f4. Normally, the best square for the queen is queen c8. You never want to go to d7, because knight e5 comes with a surprise, and queen c8 in the board. And now different options. I like the move knight h4 just to grab this bishop, which is maybe the best piece and only active piece for Peter Svidler. And we have seen a tendency in this match. The players with white pieces are putting extremely good pressure from the opening, right? So knight h4, knight f6, and after knight e5, pawn takes e5. Yes, it's true, we got the bishop pair, we got a better structure, but black has a lot of control on the e4 square, and also a semi-open file for a rook in the future. So that's why the position is not that bad for Peter Svidler in this moment. Where can I find Peter stream and Anish Giri stream? As I was telling you guys, I'm acting actually like a messenger, because you guys have the links in the description. Both are streaming from the own channel, so a lot of people come via YouTube in our Chess24 English channel, so that's why you may get lost trying to find their streams. That's why we're providing you with the streams, with the link, sorry, in the description. And so bishop d8 from Peter, and probably wants to go bishop c7. This bishop is extremely annoying, right, on f4, and this way black will manage to get rid of the bishop pair. So h3, maybe intend to go g4. Why not to go long castle here, g4 again, trying to open the position for the bishops. And what a match we're seeing today in Chess24. So h3, how are you gonna stop that? Probably with the move h5. Yes, and this is what Peter plays in this position. And now basically you can never play g4, because after h takes, g4 looks like black is just winning a pawn. He goes for h4, Peter, and fixing the structure. But now you can play g4. That's right. So pawn and passant takes on g3, pawn takes g3, and again g4 is coming. What a position, what a crazy position. I guess you can take on c7 and play g4. You can play g4 straight away. And this king, it's not safe yet. And it's not gonna be safe, sorry, definitely on the king side, right? Because a lot of files are gonna get open over there. And you still need some tempi to go for long castle in this position. Because whenever you develop this knight from d7, you still need like two more tempi to develop the queen. You took on c7 and now g4 is coming, putting pressure on f5. You got the Facundo twins here in this position, and now this looks very bad for Peter actually, because after pawn takes, rook takes, this rook is killing on h8, sorry, and you are not in time. You are not on time to go for knight d7 and long castle in that variation, right? So what a match. So what do you play actually if you don't take on g4? I think this is just too bad for Peter. He took on h1 and now knight d7. He wants to put the knight on f8 and survive in that position. But I don't know what you're gonna play after g5, right? Because you cannot block the file on h5 because the bishop on e2 is doing a fantastic job covering that square, and I think the only available square is g8, right? So g5, knight g8, rook h8, and if you had to play king e7, I just don't believe in that position. I guess in many cases some e4 is gonna come just trying to destroy the center and create a lot of troubles for this black king. So I don't know what Peter is gonna play after g5. Let's see what Anish plays. Only 50 seconds in the clock. This is chess. Who says chess is boring? Nobody anymore, right? Knight g8, and I guess e4 is also a great move here. Wow, e4 looks fantastic. Goes for g4, and now queen g3 could be an option. Queen g3 putting pressure on e3, putting pressure on g5 and g4. After bishop takes d7, king takes e7. No, he goes for long castle, Peter Svidler. And now I guess too much pressure is gonna come to the f7 pawn. And queen f2, and Peter will struggle to protect this guy here. Because after rook f8, I guess rook h7, and too much pressure on this poor guy on f7. I don't see a way to protect that. And this knight is trapped almost after rook takes f7. And then if a queen lands on f7, almost is game over for Peter. And this could be 3-2 for Anish Giri. And looks bad, definitely looks very bad for black. Knight e7, rook takes f7, rook takes. And I think he wants to go queen d8 and try to survive in that position. Then play... No, he goes for king d8. And I think just... well, this is too bad. For example, knight e2, knight f4, and knight e6. Looks like checkmate. Almost. So... Probably, I don't know. Maybe he wants to go queen h2 and then try to give some checks. Queen e6. Let's see now. I don't find a good move for black here. It's too tough for Peter to protect this position. Maybe king e8, just like a snake over there. King e8 and queen f2. Anish Giri goes back. He doesn't find the finish, and you gotta be careful because only with 27 seconds, it's gonna be tough to finish this game, right? And queen f2, and now Peter... I don't know, you cannot move the knights, right, in this position. So finally he goes for b6. These are good news for Peter. So now he's got the d6 square at least for the queen. Now e4, I think you gotta take on e4, knight takes e4, and knight d5, covering f6. Peter is fighting so hard in this game. And this is the way you get some points. At the end, just fighting, don't resigning, don't giving up. No, c5. Of course, he wants to open the c file to give some checks, but I guess Anish is in good shape to close the position with d5. And now this pass pawn could be a nightmare for Peter. It goes for bishop f3. Now I guess after pawn takes e4, bishop c6 is a killing shot. So bishop c6, knight d7, and I guess this should be game over. Even the king endgame should be completely lost. So for example, a move like, yes, king d2, and then trading everything on d7. Now every single endgame is just winning. Now this is the way Anish finishes the game, and this is 3-2 for the Dutch. By the way, such a beautiful country, right? The Netherlands. I've been there so many times in Delft, for example. So many beautiful channels, and these waffles they make, they're so tasty, right? So e4 and now c5, the Sicilian. Whoa. Let's see what kind of Sicilian Anish goes for. And Peter goes for the Alapin variation. Knight f6, h3. No, don't take this pawn on e4 because of queen a4. And then white wins the game. e5, controlling the center. I guess now Peter's going to go for bishop c2 and d4 striking in the center. Looks like the most natural way of play for me. Sorry. And e5. Peter is thinking here. Queen e2. Well, now I don't know what's going on here. Well, knight h5 thing, you can play just g3, right? Well, you have two options. You can play bishop c2, but also this c4 square is very, very interesting because now black has weakened the diagonal after playing e5, and actually f7 could be a little bit weak in these positions, right? So with a bishop on c4, now the bishop has the a2 square, so I think that's the idea behind a4, that now you can enjoy the a2 square, so there are no knight a5 coming. And let's see, d3 from Peter. Now, I think black is in time to strike in the center with d5, right? d5, pawn takes, knight takes, and I think this is extremely healthy for Anish Giri. Looks very, very good, but no, he goes for a6. I guess now you can play bishop g5 to stop d5, but he doesn't do that. Rook b8, intend to go b5, creating some counterplay on the queen side. Looks natural to me. And now, I don't know, bishop g5 looks the way to go, right? Because you control the d5 square. Of course, this position is very flexible. You can play different ways. For example, like knight d2, rook e1, knight f1, knight a3. Very natural too, just covering b5. So black is gonna find hard to play this b5 move. So I guess if you cannot play b5, you should play d5. But I understand Anish. It's never easy to go d5 in these positions because after knight takes, sometimes this is very shaky with this bishop on c4. So bishop e3. Now, white could be ready to strike in the center with c4 at some point. First of all, he's got to take care about this e4 pawn at some point. So rook e8 was played. Now, he's saying, you know what, Peter, I'm going to go for d5 in the next move. Let's see, because now queen d2 is pretty annoying, right? After king h7, the pawn on f7 is just hanging, and you don't want to go g5 in that position, or h5. This looks very, very shaky for black. After h5, knight g5, f7 is attacked with both pieces, and also white could be intended to open the file with f4. No, he goes for e5. Nobody wants to break in the center. No d4, no d5, no b5, no b4, no f4. So a lot of tension, as you can see here. All the pieces, a lot of flexibility in this position. Many possibilities, and definitely I don't know what's going on here. I don't know. I guess d5 still possible, but now the c5 pawn is just hanging. So now I think it's even more tough to go for, because c5 is just hanging. So maybe just bishop e6, just fighting against this strong piece, which is the bishop on c4. But as you can see here, so much tension going on, but at some point this is gonna explode, right? Some bumps are gonna land here in this position. Bishop d7, queen d2, now forcing black to go for this g5. King h7 is just not possible. h5 looks terrible, so g5 in the board. Now let's see. Now Peter has this queen on d2, just covering the b4 square, so he goes for b4. He goes and gets a lot of space on the queen side. Pawn takes, pawn takes. Now b5's in the air as well. Knight e7, he wants to regroup this knight by g6 to jump to f4, but now some d4 could be coming as well. It's still not possible because the pawn on e4 is just hanging. Wow, this is crazy. I don't know, maybe h4? No, it goes for bishop b3, and now I think Anish is gonna come for knight g6. And a takes b5, a takes b5, and knight c2. I don't know. Knight g6, and I guess this knight is landing on f4, sorry. And well, suddenly black has a lot of counterplay on the king side and a lot of attacking ideas. For example, with g4, that's it. I think, well, he took on g4, and knight takes g4, rook a1. Wow, this is crazy. I don't know what's going on, guys. Knight h4 looks like an idea in the future. Bishop e6, fighting against this strong bishop, so f7 is not under pressure anymore. Bishop takes, rook takes, and queen e2. I don't know. Knight h4, what happens after knight h4? Crazy stuff. d5, and you can play knight g5 as well here. Knight g5, pawn takes, queen takes g4, and you have removed this dangerous knight from g4. Looks very, very interesting, this knight g5 idea. He goes for this. Peter Svidler. Boom. Now asking Anish what he wants to do with this g4 knight, because after knight e3 there is this intermediate move, knight takes e6, just winning. So he's forced to take on g5, sorry. Now queen takes g4, attacking the pawn on g5, so he took on e4, probably pawn takes e4 as well. And look at the difference between these two bishops, because the bishop on g7 is locked by his own pawns, and this bishop is just much better. So intermediate move, bishop g5. And now Peter, idea after queen d3 is probably just to go knight e3, and this knight is arriving to f5. So many attacking ideas. Queen f5 also in the air, putting pressure on f7. You can try to double rooks on the 7 rack at some point as well. And definitely this knight on e3 is just doing a fantastic job. Covering f5, covering d5, also protecting our king, protecting g2. So basically this is just a Superman, right? This knight on e3. And it's gonna be extremely tough for Anish to defend with only 35 seconds in the clock. And I don't know. Also rook d1, it's an idea for Peter Svidler, followed by rook d7. I guess this is just almost game over for Anish Giri. I like knight f5, I like rook d1, followed by rook d7. Basically, I like everything in this position. The e7 square is not available for a rook, so a move like queen f5 was also interesting, just putting pressure on f7, but he goes for knight f5. And now, again, a lot of ideas. I don't know, but for example, queen c4, and I guess rook c1, followed by rook c7. It's just crushing in this position, right? How are you going to protect f7, my friend? Bishop h6, also very, very strong, because after bishop takes, knight takes, check, and then f7 falls. And if f7 falls, everything falls in this position. He goes back to e3. He doesn't see how to finish the game after bishop h8. Just playing fast, yeah, trying to make your opponent make mistakes. Rook f6 in this position. I guess now, too many interesting options. I like rook a6, for example. Rook takes, and then a lot of pressure on g6, but I don't know, there should be too many options. Probably black is threatening to go queen e6 in this position, just trying to kick this knight from f5. So I think Peter has to do something about this. It's not easy to finish the game, right? Bishop g5, now attacking the rook. Probably Anish is gonna go back to e6, just to get the same position, and Anish lost some time. Anish lost some time in this difficult position, and this is 3-3. Yeah, he lost some time, and this is 3-3. What a match we're enjoying here in Chess 24, and then 6 wins with the white pieces, right? We have the English opening with a symmetric setup with c5 and knight c6 and d4. Knight d4, and here probably e6 or e5 is also a very interesting gambit after knight b5 d5, but then they go for this line, queen b6, knight b5, and I guess here knight e5. This is heavy theory, right? I guess Anish actually played this line in the candidates, right? If you guys remember that interesting line where he I think he didn't manage to win that game. Actually, he lost it, right, against Nepomniachtchi, if I'm not wrong. You guys can correct me in the chat. And but here the theory goes after, I think it's knight f to g4, right? e3, a6, and h3, right? e3, a6, h3. This is what they played in the candidates. I mean, sometimes I just don't remember anything, not even my name, right? So this is the line, right? And I think knight takes c4 was a theory on rook c1. This is what Anish played. Now, you see how important is this tournament when they are using the candidates' lines. And remember that Anish has to go back to Russia to play in the candidates in few weeks, actually, in November. Knight d6. Let's see. When I was doing Spanish commentary on this candidates tournament, I remember there was too many interesting ideas. g5 followed by bishop e5. And then this bishop has a lot of troubles to be developed because the pawn on g7 is just hanging. Now h7 is under pressure, so that's why rook h7 could be a threat, but then the bishop could be trapped actually. So maybe just playing positionally with short castle, and then use the fact that black is going to struggle to go for short castle in this position because the h file is just too dangerous for him. So he goes for king f1, intend to go king g2, but you gotta be careful because the bishop on c6 could create actually a lot of trouble. Before now Peter wants to exchange some pieces. Knight e2, rook takes c1, queen takes c1, and I don't know, maybe knight e4 in this position. And let's see. So knight e2, rook c1, queen takes c1, and this is just too complicated, right? Too complicated to understand what's going on here. Bishop e7. I guess now queen b2 could be an option. Just inviting black to castle show side. Yes, come with daddy. Come with daddy. Short castle is just terrible move because of bishop h7, yeah? And then you gotta resign. So that's why queen b2 maybe forces black to go f6. And I'm not sure about how How difficult is the position for Peter after f6? I guess you can take on f6, bishop takes f6, and the h7 pawn is just hanging. But remember that Peter is a pawn up, so he could give up one pawn at some point, and then still the position would be equal in terms of material, right? So let's see. Now 2 minutes for both players in this position, and let's see how it goes. I guess queen b2 or queen a1 are very critical in this position. I guess bishop e5 is met with f6 and actually gives a tempo for black. So that's why I think it's just best to attack this pawn with the queen on b2, because after f6 at least there's no white piece attacked, right? So that's why I think queen b2 is a little bit more precise than bishop e5, but of course I could be wrong. This is just my opinion, right? And well, very difficult position. I don't know what's going on. I think I like queen b2 f6 takes, bishop takes, and bishop e5. Again, black is never on time to go for a short castle in this position because the pawn on h7, so maybe black has to take back with the pawn on f6. Still not that bad for black, right? Black could be threatening to go e5 and then win a lot of space in the center. Bishop e6, king d7. The king is rock solid in the center. So I don't know, guys. For those who are coming right now, you guys can find the links for Peter and Anish Giri commentary in the description, okay? So I'm your messenger today here in this stream. Queen b2, now f6. I think he's got to take with the pawn. Bishop f6, bishop e5 looks very strong to me. And pawn takes f6. We were not that wrong. And now let's see, rook h7. Wow, bishop takes f7. Now Anish gets his material back, but now Peter now has an extremely healthy position with all these pawn controlling the center. Bishop h6. These bishops are out of the play, and now I think knight f7 just almost win the piece, right? The only square is bishop g7. The only square is g7 for this bishop. I don't know what's going on here, but it looks that this bishop is almost trapped in that position. Knight f7, bishop g7, or bishop e6. But I think you can transfer the queen the whole way to e6 and then threaten bishop queen a3. He didn't go for this. This is also very interesting because I think yes, this is even a more subtle way to get the piece. Wow, this was amazing from Peter, because after bishop takes, knight takes, the bishop is trapped, so that's why he's got to go for bishop g8, and I guess knight f7. He's gonna get the bishop pair, bishop g7, and he's still surviving with the pieces. And now let's see, too many interesting ideas for black here. Queen c6 to continue with d4 and then give checkmate on h1. He goes for that. Queen c6. Now d4 is a big shot here for Peter Svidler, and I guess queen c1, but I think those bishops are almost trapped. Queen d2, and now d4 looks very strong. Come on, Peter, let's go for this. d4, boom, opening the diagonal. This queen is threatening to land on h1, followed by bishop h3, just winning the game on the spot, almost. Sorry, with the checkmate, and I guess maybe knight g1. It's only move here in this position. I don't know. Knight g1, queen h1, and I think this is just a piece up. This is just checkmate, right? Queen h1, and okay, he went for d3, f3. Still, Anish Giri trying to survive in this position. I think this is just completely lost for him. Too many ideas. Queen c2, knight g5 in order to put pressure on f3. But still, he's got to find the solution. The good news for Peter is that he's got 1 minute in the clock. So king e1, Anish cannot trade on c3, of course. That would be 2 pass pawns, and bishop c5 from Peter. Threatening takes, taking on e3, just winning the game on the spot. And now, yes, he protects this pawn, and I guess king g6 just wins the game in the spot. I think so, but after e4, not so clear anymore to me. Well, let's see how Peter plays here. 48 seconds, and 40 seconds to Peter. e4. Now he's threatening to go king g6, and bishop takes, e3, just winning in the game in the spot. Pawn takes, bishop takes. Now this knight cannot be moved, barely, only to h3, and now f4 or f2. Queen a1, let's see, king f2, and now queen h1 just wins the game, right? Boom, knight f4, just queen h2 and queen g1, just checkmate. Now queen h2, only move king e1 to protect the queen, and queen g1 checkmate. What a game from the 8 times Russian champion Peter Svidler. 4-3 for the living legend of chess. And he's a reference, right, for everyone in the chess world. He's probably he's my favorite chess commentator by far, right? He explains so well, and he's such a nice guy, right? He's been working with us in Chess 24 since 2014 or 15, so he's such a great guy. And I don't know Giri as much, but everybody loves him as well, right? He's been very active in the social media in the last years, and he's such a monster, right? Playing chess. So, let's see. Knight f3, d5, c4, and now there are so many funny lines with d4, b4, right? c5 and e3. I think it's possible here, right? Just to put some pressure on the center. So b takes c5. Well, now I think black wants just to play e5 and then capture this pawn on c5. So I guess black is completely fine in this position. Let's see how Peter approaches this kind of position. There are different plans. You can go short castle and bishop a3, could be an option, and then try to use the b file in the future. This is like a Benko, but with the pawn on a2, right? So of course, this pawn makes the position equal in terms of material, but of course, you cannot put pressure on the a file, right? But you can pressure with this beautiful bishop on g2. Sorry for this diagonal. This is not diagonal. This is the proper diagonal from h1 to a8. And now bishop a3. After the trade of these bishops, let's say bishop a3, knight takes a3. There are different routes for this knight. You can play rook b1, knight c2, and knight b4. Instead to go to d5. You can play c5 and knight c4. This is a very typical idea in these types of positions, just aiming to go for the d6 squared. And let's see how Anish develops the pieces. Normally black also wants to put to push this pawn to e4, let's say with bishop f5 and e4, but it's never easy, right? Because this pawn on d4 gets weak, right? After pushing this guy to e4, so that's why never easy. So rook d8 from Anish Giri. I guess rook b1 is gonna be pre-moved from Peter Svidler. Really natural for impression. b7, but I guess now Peter has to think what happens after the move e4. I think Anish's idea after rook d8 is to push e4 and then protect the d4 pawn. So now rook b1 from Peter. Still e4 in the air. I don't know what happens about this move, and it was played now, and this is a very nice idea from Anish. Just well, cutting this bishop on g2, and now there's a massive trade here on e4 and queen d3. I guess Peter is almost should be happy with the draw, right? Because after well, taking in account the score 4-3, 4.5 to 3.5, he would be only a win to win the match, right? And then to go through to the last 8 in this Banter Series Cup. So rook b5 from Peter Svidler. He wants to double rooks and then put pressure on b7. Whenever you go b6, now you can try to destroy the queen side with moves like c5. Also rook d5 is a nice idea. Just trying to get this pawn on d4. 1 minute 50 seconds for Anish Giri. Rook d7. Now probably wants to double rooks on the d file after rook d5. I guess rook d5 and knight takes d4 looks like a massive trade of pieces to me. So rook d5, rook d8, knight takes d4, rook takes d5, c takes d5, rook takes d5, knight takes d6. What a crazy position. Oh, it's so hot in here, man. I'm in the south of Spain. Still, well, it's not so hot anymore, but in my city, it's 45 degrees Celsius in summer. Yeah, you can fry an egg in the street. It's too much, man. I'm from Granada. If you guys haven't come here, you should. It's a beautiful city. Free tapas for everybody. Alhambra Palace, one of the most visited monuments in the world, actually. You can ski in the mountains. You can go to the beach. Well, come to Granada, guys. I'm not working for the Granada councilors. Well, we get this massive trade of pieces, and I guess now knight c6 intermediate move. It's great. what I mean, you have this intermediate move after rook d3, knight e7 check. So that's why he had to take on c6. And queen c4, queen d7. And now, I guess this should be a little bit better for Peter, given the structure, right? Okay, we have the same material, but then c6 is going to be very, very weak. Rook c1, I guess, it's weak, but it's also a pass pawn. So we got to be careful. Mostly in the rook endgames, right? Imagine this position without rooks, a rook behind the pawn, and then trying to push till c1, right? So rook d2. Now Anish is activating this rook onto the 7th rank, and I guess this should be around equal, right? This should be around equal. Now I think black can trade queens with queen d5, and yes, they made a draw. We go for the next game. This could be the last one if Peter manages to get a win with the black pieces. So it's not an easy task, right? So 4.5 versus 3.5. And let's see. Now they took a break. No, right? They're still there. So they're waiting. I think Peter, maybe they're going for a break or something. I don't think so. Let's just wait here. So knight f3 from Anish Giri. And let's see. We'll see a Grunfeld. We'll see this line with d5, c6, bishop f5. We'll find out. c4, and now Peter goes for the Grunfeld. No, goes for e6. This could lead to a Catalan. This could lead to a Queen's Gambit. To so many things, right? To a Reti. But he goes for d4. And now Peter, let's see what he plays. d5 and Catalan with g3, or main lines with knight c3. Or maybe secondary move like e3. We'll find out in a few seconds what Anish Giri plays. Knight c3. And now different options. The Ragozin variation with bishop b4. The Tarrasch or semi-Tarrasch with c5. Main lines with bishop e7. The Vienna with d takes c4. We go for the Vienna. You guys can find a video series from Jan Gustafsson, Uncle Jan, in Chess24. And this is actually a pawn sacrifice from Anish Giri. Short castle, knight f6. Taking the second pawn is just too greedy, right? It's just bad for black. You can find the refutation, sorry, not reputation, but refutation at home. So knight e5, rook b8, still theory. I guess bishop b5 was a move here. So rook b8, of course, after knight c6, b takes c6, the rook protects this bishop on b4. So that's why white was threatening to win a piece, and now this rook makes a fantastic job protecting this guy on b4, right? So I don't know what's going on here. d5 could be a move. Pawn takes, knight takes, knight takes, knight c6, bc6, queen c6. Just a huge mess, right? And I don't know, rook d1. Well, now he's intent to go d5, but I guess you cannot go d5 now. He took on c6 and queen a7. Well, Anish grabs the pawn, and then Peter protects the rook with bishop d7, queen a4. He goes back. The queen has done its job on the queen side, and now it's gonna be retreated to c2. But now this gives Peter Svidler the possibility to go c5 and then fix his structure, and also gives this bishop some fresh air. This bishop was still in the garage, as we were saying, and now probably if this bishop lands on c6, it's gonna be happy, pointing to g2, and rook d4. Still, there's a pin on this d-file, so I guess the most natural square for the queen is e7. Also bishop d6, it's a natural move, just unpinning this bishop from d7, also putting pressure on h2, goes for h6, some fresh air for the king as well, stopping bishop g5, prophylactic move, bishop f4, from Anish Giri, and now I guess rook d2. That's right, in order to double rooks on the d-file, pressure against this bishop on d7, and I don't know, but knight h5 looks good to me. Knight h5, where is this bishop going? Probably to e5, right? To e5, so that's why maybe knight h5 was not so good. So queen e7, now this bishop is ready to be moved to c6, and I guess different options now for white. Probably the most natural is rook a to d1, just bringing a piece to the center. Also, knight e4 could be an option, right? Attacking this bishop, and after knight takes e4, queen takes e4, there's no bishop c6, so the bishop is still sad. And I guess bishop d3 is an aggressive possibility for white here. Intend to go checkmate on h7, and maybe bishop b5, prophylactic move against bishop d3 right now. But I'm a little bit worried about Peter Svidler's position on the king side, right? Because this h6 pawn, this bishop is just waiting his moment to be sacrificed on h6. No, he goes bishop d6, rook a to d1, and now you cannot take on f4 because of rook d7. Bishop e5 was played, again stopping bishop d3, and now different alternatives for white here. I guess if everything's straight, I think Anish Giri would be on top in this position because of the structure again. I guess c7 is gonna be a little bit weak. We got this passer on the a file, which could be posing some problems to Peter in the future. So I think you just play positional here with b3, bishop takes, queen takes. I guess this is a little bit better for Anish, but only a little bit better. He needs desperately to win a game, right? And so let's see. Oh, I see we have a lot of Indian people here in the chat as well. I used to live with an Indian in my masters when I was studying in Italy and Poland. My friend Anand, actually he was called Anand, and he was from Chennai as well. So he taught me some sentences like "Abse milger bari kushi hui." I think that means nice to meet you, right? Something like that. And "Tira nam kya hai." So what am I talking about? I just lost my mind. Sorry guys, this happens to me very frequently in chess streams, so don't listen to me too much, just mute me. And Anish doesn't want to trade too many pieces, right? Well, he goes for b3, only 34 seconds. This is getting complicated for Anish Giri. I think it's difficult that he loses this game because there's no risk basically in this moment, but he needs a win at some point, right? So b3, and well, now bishop c4, queen c4, rook b4. I think is met by bishop d6 winning. Not so sure. Rook b4, bishop d6, queen d6 over there, and I don't know, but looks smells really bad. So he took on f4. And now, this is the kind of position that I was talking about. Now, rook d7 is a threat, just grabbing the c7 pawn, so I guess c5 could be an option. And the c pawn could be suffering a lot in this position, just doubling rooks on the c file, putting the queen on e3, for example. But I guess black is going to have a lot of counterplay against the a2 pawn. And if you move the pawn to a4, you're going to have a lot of counterplay against the b pawn. So that's why black always has something to attack in this position, the a2 pawn or the b3 pawn, if Anish moves the pawn to a4, as we said already. So h3, so no background problems in the future. Nice move. And now rook b4, active move from Peter Svidler. I guess queen e5 or queen e3, the most natural moves. Just putting pressure on c5. Queen e5 from Anish Giri, only 23 seconds, 40 for Peter Svidler. This is getting intense in this moment. And now black would love to play c4 at some point, but I don't know if this is possible or not. I guess rook d7 is coming, and I have no clue what's going on. After queen f6, there's queen c5 in that position, and looks like white is winning a pawn, so that's why c4. Peter, I'm sure he would love to go for this move, but still not possible. That's why now they go for the root game. Let's see. Now Peter is very close to get a draw in this position. I guess f5, king g7, and king f6. Looks natural to me, but he goes for c4, which is a mistake. Now, rook a8. Well, they're going to reach this endgame. Rook takes rook c4, rook takes c4, and I guess the key is to take with the pawn and run like a beast. Run like Usain Bolt. Rook c4, b takes c4, and run. Run. c6, rook c7. I guess this king is going to solve the issue. Should go for c6 and then run with the king. Whenever this king comes here to grab this pawn, then this pawn on h6 is gonna fall, and then this is gonna promote right in the future. I don't know, guys. Let's see, because if this king comes here to h4, I guess Peter is gonna try to hold on by playing king g6, king g7, king h7, and then you gotta progress somehow. Rook c5, and now I guess you're not even threatening to take this guy on e5 because the pawn on c6 has just falls, right? So that's why he went for f4. He took, and then we are reaching probably in the best case, in the best case scenario for black here, for white, sorry, we are reaching some 3 versus 2. But it's still a draw, right? It's still a theoretical draw. But for sure, Anish is going to try to put a lot of pressure until tomorrow, I think. So h4. Let's see how he tries to make progress in this position. Extremely tough. 3 versus 2. How tough is chess, yeah? You fight for 15 minutes to get a pawn. You get the pawn, still a draw. And so bye-bye, Mr. Gupta. f4. And I think you just have to wait, right? Rook b4, for example, and g5, pawn takes, and if you take with the f1, I think this king is almost trapped. If you keep a rook on the 4th rank, I think there's no way of bringing this king back to the action, so that's why maybe you have to take with the h-pawn, but that's not the idea. So he went for f6, not so sure about this move. Rook b7, and now Peter wants to just stay on the 7th rank and then make Anish play the move g5, that of course will lead to a draw. So well fought by Peter Svidler, who is very close to get a draw in this position. And after that, he's only 1 draw away to qualify for the last 8 in this Banter series, which is, as I was telling you guys, the best invention in Chess 24. We created it like what happened? What happened here? Because I don't know. Maybe something happened with Peter connection. No, okay. Now they moved, and yes, this is a theoretical draw. We are preparing the score for the next match. This is gonna be 5-4 for Peter. Only needs a draw to qualify. Now rook b1, for example, exactly to check until tomorrow, right? And f6, rook f7, just king f8, and this is a dead draw, guys. So I'm gonna change the score already, and this is 5-4, and we go for the 10th game, guys. 10th games. Svidler versus Anish Giri. Peter only needs a draw, so now I think Anish has to play something very aggressive with the black pieces. It's gonna go for e4, e5. I guess he will play a Sicilian. And but Peter sometimes plays knight f3 or even c4 in many of his games. So we'll see what they play. We see that Anish is drinking a little bit of water, talking to somebody, and knight f3, d5, and then g3. Before he went for this setup with b3, now he goes for the fianchetto, and knight d7. Again, Anish wants to go e5 in this position, so I guess d4 or c4 are natural moves, just to strike in the center. So to make life harder for black in the center, e6, and c takes e5, e takes e5, and probably short castle. In these positions, you may want to go for d3 and e4. This is very typical in these positions. Not only d4, but also d3 to fight for this e4 push. So let's see what Anish Giri plays. The normal way of developing is c6, bishop d6, knight f6, short castle, and then rook e8. So Peter goes for h3, intending to grab this bishop, for example, after bishop h5, g4, followed by knight h4, grabbing this bishop pair, which is a nice idea here. So let's see if Anish takes on f3 straight away. Now knight h4 or g4, both look very natural to me. Maybe knight h4 is a bit more precise, because after g4, knight h4, black had this option of going bishop e4. But now Peter goes for knight c3, and as I was telling you, probably he wants to continue with this e4 break in the center. Queen b3 attacking b7. Any endgame is okay for Peter, I guess, because he only needs a draw. And takes on b6, and he managed to get the bishop pair. Queen c2, in order to go e4. Now Anish prophylactically plays rook e8. Great fight. we're enjoying here in Chess 24 this Sunday. Today's Sunday? No, right? What is... it's Tuesday, right? H5. Now he got the second bishop. And H5, stopping G4. And I guess now you got many interesting options. F4 followed by E4. Just grabbing a lot of space. You gotta be careful with the trade on E4 and then Queen D4 check and then grabbing this rook on A1. I completely missed that. So I guess F4, it's an option. Bishop G5 too. Probably the most natural way. Just pinning this knight on F6. And now Peter is gonna strike in the center. I'm pretty sure about that with E4 or D4. But E4 looks natural to me. E4. Pawn takes, pawn takes. Now the rook is ready to come to the open file on D1. Knight H7. Now Peter is going back probably to E3. Now white is ready to push all the pawns in the center. I guess Peter has a nice advantage in this position. Look at these two bishops, man. What do you want in life? Rook D1. Now F4 followed by E5. I guess Queen A3 is the only good move here to create some contemplate to attack the A2 pawn. And you play passively like Queen C7. F4 followed by E5 is gonna come with a lot of pain for Anish Giri, but he goes for Queen G6. Now he's reminding Peter, alright Peter, I know you are my friend, you're a good guy, but if you play F4 at some point G3 is gonna fall, right? So let's see. Bishop C5 could be an option too to play Rook D6, asking this queen where she wants to go. Only 1 minute 40 seconds for Peter. I guess King H2 is also natural, just to play F4 and then to protect G3. So, because I guess after F4 you can take on G3 because the bishop on E3 is hanging. So, Knight F6, Bishop D4. Wow, Knight E4. What a move! What a move! What a move! By Anish Giri, wants to stay in the match after Bishop E4. Look at this move. Knight F3. Ba-boom! Knight F3. Ba-boom! Knight F3. Ba-boom! Bishop E4. Knight F3. I think it's the only move here, right? Knight F3. Knight F3, you cannot take this knight because of Queen takes E2, King G2, and I guess Rook E4 is coming, and after King F3, Rook F4. And after King F3, Rook F4, so that's why you can't take on E4 with the Rook. What a beautiful shot from Anish Giri. Now, this knight is poisoned because there's Rook E3 or Rook F4, so that's why you cannot take that knight, and that means that Anish Giri has a nice advantage in this position. Well, it's not finished yet, of course. It's only a pawn up for Anish Giri. Of course, skin is still weak on the king side. And I don't know what's he wanna play. I don't know, Knight H4 check, King G1. Maybe H4 is also a move here. Who knows? H4, just take that knight on F3. I don't need it. You cannot take it, actually. H4, what a beautiful move from Anish Giri. He takes on F3, same story. Same story, Rook F4, the queen on C2 is unprotected, so that's why probably a move like Queen D3 could be an idea now to grab this knight. Yes, now Black has to do something about this carousel here, so maybe Knight G5, stuff like that. And still, great advantage for Anish Giri. Peter fighting, tries to stay in the game. It's 20 past 5. I guess Magnus Carlsen match was starting at 5 p.m. I don't know if it started already or not, but I don't want to miss this. I don't know about you guys, but this could come to the 5-5 and tie break 2 games. And so much entertainment these guys are giving to us, right, for free. Life is great. Rook D2 for Peter Svidler, and I don't know. Let's push the other one. Let's push Facundo, right? F5. Why not? F5. Let's push it. F5. No, he goes for Queen E6, G4, and now there's boom. Rook G4, I think just wins. Wins? I think it wins. Rook G4, pawn takes, Queen takes, King H1, Knight F3, and Queen A3 unstoppable. Wow, I think this wins. Rook G4 has to be the clue here. Has to be the key. Rook G4, Queen G4, and Knight F3. Wow, what a beautiful game. Queen D7. Wow, I didn't see that, guys, but Rook F4, Anish did. Anish did. Queen H3, I guess, is the only move. Or King G2, and I guess Knight D2, and then he gets the material back, and of course his castle is completely destroyed, and well, I think this is just game over, yeah? Sooner or later, I guess H3, this just forces white to take on H3, and then we reach the tiebreak, guys, 5-5. And so this is 5-5. Well, that means that we have 2 more games in order to finish this match. And then if we get to C6, this will mean we'll get an Armageddon. As you guys saw, Anish Giri ask for a minute, because probably it's going to get some more water or some more. It's going to the toilet. Let's get some water, yeah, from my land. Agua del Anjarón, yeah. It's a village in the mountains in my province. Oh, this is so beautiful, right? This match. So much fun. So much fun. Who are you rooting for? Anish Giri or Peter Svidler? I guess they are both very likable, right? And they both have a lot of fun, right? So, somebody says, yeah, I'm rooting for Peter, rooting for Anish. Anish, go for it. Nobel Matthew saying, Anish is changing his bird water. And, well, amazing, right? Anish, I'm rooting for a commentator, thank you. But I was eliminated for playing against Peter Svidler. It was such an honor, right? To play one of my chess idols. You know, I got to play against him and I got to beat him in 1 game, so I'm happy already, yeah? And man, this is like worse than football, yeah? I think chess commentary is like hard sport, right? Even harder than rugby. Well, So actually I brought my tennis racket, talking about sports. I guess I'll play a match tomorrow against one friend here. Good workout before the games. And I think Anish is back. He's drinking a little bit, getting some energy, smiling a little bit. He's making us smile because we're having so much fun today, guys. And we go for the next game, 11th game. It started already. Knight c6. Peter goes for this. Okay, bishop f4. He doesn't want to go for c4, but instead bishop f4, which makes a lot of sense, of course. And now I guess bishop g4 should be, or bishop f5 should be the 2 best options for black here. And I guess e3, Anish wants to go and play calm in this kind of position. e6, and I guess c4 at some point is gonna come, right? You gotta strike in the center. And then again, same story. Some points on queen b3, targeting b7, e6 from Peter. Maybe he wants to go bishop d6 at some point and fight for the e5 square. And Anish attack was as fine as jamón ibérico, guys. Don't tell me about jamón ibérico. I need some Spanish ham, the best, yeah, the best picks. c4, knight f6, and knight c3. Natural development, right? So I guess bishop e7 or bishop d6. Bishop e7 looks natural. Also bishop b4, just pinning this knight on c3. Yes, he goes for that. And let's see, bishop e2, h3, attacking this bishop. Both of them are natural. Also some queen b3 could be natural as well, just asking this bishop where he wants to go. Again, reminding Peter what he wants to do about this b7 pawn, which is always a nightmare in these positions where this bishop is out of the pawn chain, right? So bishop b4, and Anish consuming a lot of time. Rook c1, another natural move. Just he wants to recapture on c3 with the rook, of course. So nobody will take here on c3 whenever you are forced, right? Because after rook c3, this is just much better for white. So short castle from Peter, and now bishop e2. I guess just developing a piece. No, he wants to get the bishop pair. How many times did we say the bishop pair was important in chess? Like 100? Like thousands? Yes, the bishop pair is extremely important, and even more in top chess, right? So now 2 options. You can take on c3, and you can retreat your bishop, not to a5, yeah, Probably somebody at home will be saying, come on, Pepe, get back to a5 and then keep this pin on c3. No, because after b4 and c5, you just resign. So bishop d6, bishop g5, pinning this knight on f6, threatening to go c takes d5, followed by knight takes d5, just winning the game in the spots. That's why I guess Peter has to take on c4 or retreat the bishop to e7. So no more c takes d5, followed by knight takes d5. Position looks very nice for Anish Giri, because now Peter's knights on c6 is just rubbish, right? You will love to have this knight on d7 and then this pawn on c6 reinforcing the center. So I guess Anish has the trend position, right? Because I mean, you have you're gonna enjoy free pressure on the c file in the future. Now let's see, he can take on e4, now changing the style of the position. You can also take on d5. But now Peter managed to get this knight to e7. It's not the ideal square though, but at least it's better than c6, and now he can reinforce the center with c6, playing rock solid. Peter Svidler here, 8 times champion of Russia. I'm not even 8 times champion of my house. You know, my brother is also a decent player, and then he beat me so many times, so you guys can see. So knight f5 from Peter Svidler, and well, probably he took on d5. This surprises me a little bit. He wants to go for the minority attack on the queen side, wants to play b5, so that's why a6 from Peter. Peter is saying, all right, you want to go b5, at least I'm going to get the a file open for my rook, which is very tasty. So I guess knight d6 stops b5 for now, and looks like the best square for the knight, controlling c4, controlling b5, which is the most important square, and also, why not, intend to go knight e4 in the future. Black in this kind of positions, in many cases, tries to create some sort of attack on the king side by playing moves like f5, even transferring these heavy pieces to the king side. But of course, you cannot forget about the queen side. So now I think White managed to get b5 going on in this position. So I don't know. Many cases you want to take with the c pawn and then play a5, but with the queen on b3 targeting d5, this is gonna be hard for Peter. So I don't like Peter's position right now. I think he's suffering. Also, we can see that he's consuming a lot of time. And queen d7, stopping b5. You guys can see that all the fight is going on the b file, and with this move b5, pawn takes, and I don't know. I think Anish got what he wanted. He now is gonna take on c6, and he's gonna put pressure on this pawn until tomorrow, right? Rook c8, and I guess pawn takes, and Peter is saying, you know what, yeah, you can put a lot of pressure on the c6 pawn, but I'm gonna defend with even my glasses. Well, no, wait, Peter doesn't have glasses yet. With my t-shirt, I'm gonna put the t-shirt just defending this pawn on c6, rook c7, rook c8, then maybe bring this knight 2 to protect c6, even though it doesn't look so easy because you need a couple of times to get to e7. That could be an option, knight f5, knight e7, but then after knight f5 there is bishop g4 pinning this knight, so whenever you go rook c6, it could be a bishop landing on a6, just reminding that you cannot protect that pawn easily. But maybe Anish Giri wants to triple the heavy pieces on c6 and g6. No background problems for Peter Svidler. This is warming up, guys. 40 seconds for everybody here. So time scramble, mistakes, adrenaline, craziness. Bishop g4 attacking the queen, probably queen e8, right, to protect the pawn on c6. Now Anish Giri is threatening to go bishop takes e5 and see a way to stop that. How you gonna stop that, my friend? Rook c8, bishop takes d5, and maybe you got knight b5 over there, but I don't see if that was working or not. Rook c to c8 and bishop takes d5, of course, it's just rubbish now. And now you got the c4 square for the knight. So queen c2 maybe can be met with knight c4. I have no idea what's going on here. Actually, you are not threatening yet to take on c6 because there is mate on the back rack. So you can actually improve your king a little bit and then try to protect c6. Okay, knight c4, I guess knight bishop e2 is the most natural move. I don't know, knight d6, still You shouldn't take on c6 because after all the trades, rook a1 is just almost checkmate. You got bishop f1, but after 94, 92, I think black is gaining that piece, and I think it's just winning. So you shouldn't take on c6. That's why bishop d3, rook c7. Now Peter is ready to protect this pawn on c6 with rook c8 in case he needs it. 7 seconds for Anish. Giri g3. He gives some fresh air. Queen a4, putting even his heart to attack this pawn. Queen d7. Solid, solid, solid. King g2, h5, h3. Doesn't want to have to deal with h4, h3 ideas from Peter Svidler. And now rook 3, to c2. And what's going on here? Whenever you go bishop a6, I guess rook a8, and then this bishop is gonna get pinned. Pawn takes, rook c5. Wow. Now it's gonna suffer a lot in this position. e4 is under attack. I don't see a way to protect it. f5 looks extremely ugly. d5 is coming. Anish Giri putting some pressure. 7 seconds for Anish. He can take this pawn on c6, I guess. And then we're gonna reach some 5 pawns versus 4 pawns on the king side at some point. Now Peter is saying, you know what, I'm gonna try to create some counterplay with queen f3. Why not? g5 at some point and h4. Rook takes c6. Queen f3. King g1. Wow, what's going on? Queen c6. Let's see, rook a7. Why not? g5. Peter goes for it. h4. h4. He wants to give checkmate. They trade a lot of pieces. Rook a2. Now cutting the king. It's too much material for Anish Giri. Now he can start pushing this guy on the d file. Also rook c5 to protect g5. To continue with rook f5. Not to grab this guy here. Rook c6 and now rook g2. Just get the pawn. No, rook e2. It's gonna get this guy here. Rook e3. Now rook d3. It looks like a draw now. Amazing stuff here. d6. Rook d2. Now this king is cut. Now rook d5 probably is interesting just to get this pawn on the g file. Wow, what an amazing game. King g8, g6, takes. This is a dead draw, guys. This is a dead draw. Rook h6, king g7, rook e6, king f7. And this is gonna be a draw of 5.5 versus 5.5. The one who wins, the one who goes through the next phase. Why did I change the score already? It was no triple repetition, and of course everything can happen, but after rook d5 now, rook g5, now this is a draw, at least some terrible blunder happens. And yes, rook e6, just king f7 for example, rook h6, just rook d5 followed by king g7, and Anish is gonna take the draw, I guess. Yeah, this is just a dead draw. Rook e1 and infinite checks. Sorry. Check, and draw, guys. Ooh, 5.5 versus 5.5. Then this is the penultimate or ultimate game. If somebody wins, this is over, guys. If they make a draw, then Armageddon is not only a Bruce Willis movie, but also a way of breaking the tie in chess, right? In Armageddon, the player who has the white pieces is forced to win, but it has 1 minute less in the clock. So basically, good stuff, and there's no increment. So it's completely crazy. So Peter with the white pieces. And he defended so well, Peter. He fought so well. He was under so much pressure at some point. And knight f3. d5. And g3 again, same opening. In the previous game, actually, Peter got a really nice position, right? But now Anish changes. Well, he doesn't. He goes for bishop g4 idea, same setup. And let's see what Peter plays. c4, same stuff. Now c takes d5 followed by d3. What he played in the last game. So let's see what he does now. He does it, and then he goes for c takes d5, bishop f3, immediate move, and c takes d5. And again, this is the kind of position where in many cases you wanna continue with d4 or d3 e4. He goes for d4, controlling the center, e3, and bishop pair. This reminds me to positions that arise from the Catalan opening as well. This is just a tiny advantage for white, given the fact that you got the bishop pair, right? But black is rock solid in this position. So I think queen a5 idea could be just to trade bishops after bishop b2, just bishop a3, right? And then I think the position is more or less equal, right? I still will get the white pieces because of the bishop, but not so sure. Well, bishop b4 and now queen c2. I don't think could be an option, because after rook c8 probably the idea is to go a3, inviting black to take on a3, which looks completely rubbish, right? Because there is a nasty pin here on the a file, and so that's why queen c2 I guess is just possible now. The other move is queen e1, which looks natural too, just protecting this guy. Knight b1. Well, this is not the most active move, but I think Peter just wants to trade these bishops and then play that position, which is more or less equal, I guess. But I think black is not in trouble anymore by any means, right? So a3, I think this is forcing now black to take on d2. Takes, and around equal. Knight takes d2. Still, something is happening with my mouse. Sorry, guys. I think it's still not easy to connect the rooks. Because, for example, after knight e7, if you go queen e2, there's rook c2. And if you go queen b1, the knight on d2 is hanging. So still some small problems that you have to solve in this position. Now, I guess this gives white an important tempo. Now you can play queen b1, queen b2, rook f to c1, and I guess this is around equal. I like this move, queen b1 or even b4, giving this route for the knight to come to b3 and then enjoying this fantastic pair on c5. Whenever black goes b6 in those positions, you can fight for the c file by playing some bishop a6 in the future. And I don't know. 2 minutes for Peter Svidler in the game that could be the last one of this match, this fantastic Banter series. Best chess players in the world here in Chess 24, making us enjoy this fantastic game, fantastic sport. Well, so Peter consuming again a lot of time. I guess queen b1, I guess it's not liking b4 for some reason. Maybe rook c3 could be the idea behind knight e7 from Anish Giri. So bishop d3, I don't know what he wants to go, what he wants to play after rook c3. I guess queen b1 or queen e2, but it looks suspicious, at least for Peter, because now he's not gonna be on time to fight for the c file. Wow, bishop c2, this looks shaky. Rook a2. Well, as you guys can see, not the best coordination of the white pieces, but still looks solid. I don't know, maybe bishop b1, rook c2, try to trade a rook and then try to survive here. So 2 minutes for Anish Giri. It's not clear how you make progress though with the black pieces, right? Because after queen c6, just bishop b1, and it's not clear. a5. Now knight b1, knight f3. He wants to go with knight e5 probably. After a4, you can reply always with b takes e4 even. So probably that's a joke, right? A bad joke. This a4 move. You can even go b4 followed by bishop takes a4, and yes, it's solid. It's solid. So now queen c7, you're gonna go bishop d3 or bishop b1. Peter chooses the most active square, controlling b5 as well. And well, now he's playing fast. This is good news for Peter. Now Anish consuming a little bit of time. Now he's not sure about how to proceed, and Anish could be looking for Armageddon. Why not? Maybe he's faster than Peter. I don't know. King g7. Rook b1. Now Peter is ready to strike with b4. Now giving this rook's on pressure on b4, putting pressure on b7. I like Peter's plan. b4 in the next move. Asking Anish, yes, you have a nice position, but you are doing nothing, Anish. So now I'm gonna strike with b4. That's why prophylactic move. Rook c7. Now Peter improves the position of the king. Knight c8. Now to go knight d6, controlling more square. I guess b4 is gonna come sooner or later, but of course after a takes, rook takes, then a3 is gonna suffer a lot. in this position to b7 and a3 suffering. Knight d6 from Anish Giri. And looking for the c4 square, looking for the e4 square. And 50 seconds, 95 from Peter. This is getting crazy, guys. I don't know what's going on here. I guess next move from Peter is bishop d3. Could be an option. Now controlling c4, e4. But as you guys can see, a lot of tension and 50 seconds. This is just the lottery, right? Basically, this is just like penalties. 50 seconds for everybody. It's so easy to make mistakes in this kind of positions, in this kind of chess, right? Blitz chess, and even talking is even more difficult, right? You guys can't imagine how difficult it is to talk and play at the same time. So knight takes e4. I guess knight c4 is coming. He takes with the rook. Taking with the pawn would leave this rook trapped completely. So bishop d3, I guess rook c3 back is the idea from Anish Giri. Less and less pieces. a4. Now Peter wants to continue probably with rook b5. At some point he could double rooks on the b file or even bring the queen as well to put pressure on b7. So that's why Anish Giri wants to trade some heavy pieces. Rook c1. And after rook c1, there could be some mating ideas on the background. So that's why he wants to trade queens. And now queen takes e2, rook takes e2, rook a1, rook b2. And probably that's a dead draw. And probably we are reaching Armageddon, guys. Which is amazing, right? I love Armageddons. I know it's not, maybe it's not fair, yes? So many people, Armageddon is not fair, this is not chess. But at some point you have to break the tie, right? It's like penalties in football, yeah? Knight d6. Maybe I will take black in this position still a little bit. Bring the king maybe to e7. I have an active rook on c3. But I think Svidler is gonna go for the easiest way to make a draw. Just a6 in the next move, and then trade rooks. a6, pawn takes, rook takes, and this is a dead draw after the trade of rooks, and probably they're gonna offer a draw. No, Anish wants to play. Well, let's see. King f3, 96, and you think this was crazy? This was fun. Now we really go for the craziest Armageddon ever. 6-6. And thanks both of them for the fight, for the entertainment. It's been amazing, right? And last game, Anish Giri has the white pieces. Let's say the lottery was done before the match, so that means that Anish Giri is basically forced to win the game. To qualify for the next phase. So Peter only needs a draw, but I guess given the age, I guess Anish should be a little bit faster than Peter Svidler in terms of mouse speed, right? I don't know what you guys think, but I think Peter is not that fast, but he's got 4 minutes in the clock, which is still some time. If this was bullet, I will bet my money on Anish Giri, but still a lot of time. 5 versus 4, I think. And so fantastic. Giri will try to draw. No, Giri has to go all in this game, guys. Otherwise, he's out of the competition. And Peter needs only a draw, so I understand completely. He goes and plays solid. But Peter is a specialist in dynamic positions, so he loves to play fun positions, risky positions, so I don't see him playing like the Berlin in this game. I see him playing some sort of Grunfeld again, or the Norwegian Rat. We've been here for almost 2 hours, right? We've been here for almost 2 hours. And this is good, man. And nothing else matters. Pepe might be as tired as running a marathon, I guess, and also the players, yeah? 2 hours talking, and with this level of tension. I always said, you know, chess is a sport with a lot of risks, you know? No, jokes apart, now I'm very happy to get to do commentary on this match, because it's been so much fun, you know. So, go Anish, go Peter. People supporting both of them. And we'll see. What do you guys think Anish will play in this game? I think he'll go for d4. d4, and then I guess Peter is going for knight f6 and e6. d4, knight f6, and then e6 in the next move. I think he had enough of these experiments with knight c6. This game he was suffering for 2 hours. I think he had enough of that. So I think he's going to play rock solid with knight f6, e6, and then invite his opponent to come with daddy, and then try to resist and see if Anish makes any mistakes. Anish preparing with Sopico. They say in the chat. Why is Anish white? This was the lottery was done before the match. Okay, so knight f3, g6 for Peter. Okay, e4, and now d5. What is this? What is this? This is some sort of Scandinavian from Peter Svidler. What is this? Knight c3. I guess it's gonna go back to d8. All the way back to d8 and d4. We have Scandinavian with queen d8. Amazing. Bishop d7. I was saying he was gonna play solid, and then he goes for the Scandinavian. I love Peter Svidler. c6. Controlling important square. Queen d2 and Anish going all in. Now you can see 4 minutes for Peter, 5 minutes for Anish. Giri. Short castle. Now kings in opposite flanks. This is gonna get very messy. Bishop h6. Want to continue with h4, h5 and checkmate. Bishop g4. Now covering this important h5 square. Developing a piece. Bishop e2, knight b to d7. Let's see what happened at some point. Peter Svidler could try to start an important attack on the queen side. King g7. And now knight e5. Probably bishop e6 or bishop e2. Both are completely reasonable. Now takes. Let's see what Peter plays. I think his position is more than healthy. It's completely fine. But I guess now Anish Giri is going crazy on the king side with moves like g4, h4, h5. And black has to do something about this. And it's not actually easy. And Peter has only 3 minutes in the clock. Knight d5. He wants to trade pieces. That's a nice idea. Knight takes, pawn takes. And why not h4 straight away to keep checkmate in 10 moves. h4, h5, takes. Queen e3, queen h6 and queen h8 checkmate. Probably that was not 10 moves. So, we'll see. Now 4 minutes for Anish Giri. Remember, there's no increment. h4, now he wants to open everything here on the h file. I guess you gotta go h5 here, but then this gives me the g4 square to strike to blow everything in the position. It goes! Now, queen e5, I think he missed queen e5. I think knight e5 was a mistake. Now queen e5, f6, he wants to play. But queen e2, this looks extremely tough to defend for Peter, right? Queen e5, f6, only move, because if you go king g8 or king g7, just king h7, sorry, g takes h5, just wins the game in the spot, right? So, queen e5, f6, he took with the pawn. This comes as a surprise to me, but still this looks extremely hard to defend for Peter. I like the move rook h8 there, just trying to cover everything. After rook g1, just king f8 or something like that. He goes for that rook h8. He doesn't want to open the h file or the g file. Now playing good defensive chess. Peter Svidler, who is ready now to create contemplate on the c file. e6 now from Anish Giri, f6. He closes the position. This looks so bad now, because now g6 is also weak. Now g takes h5 is coming. He has to take on g4 and guess rook h6. Looks so shaky. h5, I guess g5, but now f4. Facundo as usual solving the issue. I guess Peter is forced to not to do anything, just allowing white to take on g6. And I guess queen f5. This is just a fantastic move from Anish Giri. And I guess this is almost a win for Anish Giri, who's going for rook takes g6, in the next move. And I guess you have to resign. g5, just rook takes g5, pawn takes g5, and I guess this has to be checkmate at some point. King h8, and I guess rook g6. Maybe Peter's gonna try to play rook h7, and survive in that position, but I don't think this is just possible, yeah? Rook takes rook takes f6. This is just too beautiful. Rook takes f6. Brutal move from Anish Giri. Rook takes f6, using the fact that after queen takes rook g7, you have h6 to finish the game. Now rook f8, and I think this is just a matter of technique. I think this is just completely winning for Anish Giri. h6, and you're gonna resign soon. h7, for example. h7 just wins the game in the spot. Boom, ba boom, and goodbye, my friend. Rook f8, queen f8, king h7. Peter resigned in this game, and Anish Giri makes it, and he gets the last win in this Armageddon. We have to thank both of them for this entertainment. This was so much fun. They fought so much. They have to be completely exhausted. And yes, this has been a pleasure for me as usual to be with you guys here in Chess24. It's just fantastic to see these guys playing chess. So I hope you guys have a nice day wherever you are. Just take care with this pandemic. Hope you stay very healthy. Hope to see you very soon in Chess24, either in the Spanish section or in the English one. So have a nice day. Big hugs from Spain, and take care. See you guys.